I found out that the college was going to be celebrating their 50th anniversary, and I was trying to think of something that could be put on that nobody else would think of related to the 50 years that the college has been around. And what first came to mind was Neville Gough. He's a graduate of the original White College, which was the predecessor to St. Clair College, and has been around these halls ever since. He's taught a variety of different courses, from the technician, technologist, electrical apprentices, and currently at his ripe old age, he's doing apprenticeship teaching in the evenings from September to December, and has been doing that with me for the last 4 or 5 years.
I came to Canada in 1957 from the UK and set up a home here, my wife and 2 children. We had 2 more children here, so now we got 4. My eldest son is coming from Vancouver tomorrow to visit with his dear old dad. I started, it would be 86, into the teaching. And previous to that, though, I was in the Army, in the Signal Corps. And I first got interested in more complex radio and electronics in the Army because they got the latest stuff, you know. Okay. And as I mentioned, we had this remarkable new thing called FM radio that everybody said, yeah, won't last. But it did, thank goodness. And of course, I started teaching in the Army. They needed somebody to, a volunteer, you know, and I started teaching the courses and learned more about it and so on. And then, as I say, in 1957, I came here, started work in the industry. And I got to go to what was called the Western Ontario Institute of Technology, which was the pre-forerunner of St. Clair College. I took I think it was a 2-year course there in electronics. It was a tough one, but I got through, did very well, reasonably well, good well, you've seen the paper. And I started working in industry for a company called Moncur Electric, which I was part owner and shares in the company. So we worked very hard and we accumulated customers, and we noticed that the electronic side was getting more and more and more. Instead of the mechanical devices, electronics. So we pursued that, and I was very proud to be sort of in the forerunner of this new industry, as you might call it. Of course, it was electronic tube technology then, and then solid state came on the market, and then of course computers, and the digital age was on us. And we were all messing around with Radio Shack computers trying to get them to work. Bang! I forget the name of them, but they were a bit of a pain, but you had to be partially mad to run them, I think. But it went on and on. Now I got a Mac computer that can do everything, you know, do the world. As the buildings grew and we got more and more space, we were kind of pinching ourselves again. Wow, look at this. And then of course the Ford Center came in and we were in heaven, you know. I mean, we had rooms and all kinds of stuff, and it was just miraculous. It made teaching very easy. It made it better because you didn't have to say, well, if we had one of these, it would do that. The apprentice, here is what it is. It's in your hands.
I've had many opportunities to spend many hours discussing with him just about everything under the sun, from obvious things like electrical and electronics, to his life back in Ireland when he was first born, to his time in the war machine factories of England during the Battle of Britain and things of that nature, to his landing in Canada. He's been crazy entertaining the whole time. I cannot ever get enough of him. He's never one of those people that you would ever listen to and say, oh my goodness, not that story again. Even if it is that story again, you could hear it 100 times and it would never be the same story again.
So I taught the basic electricity, theory and practical, magnetic circuits, electric motor circuits, how the motor worked. And what I did myself off my own bat, as it were, I included historic references. Who invented this or that? Because I kind of associate the person with the thing. Like Tesla, Tesla, the great engineering scientist, and he invented the electric three-phase motor, the electric motor. And that's single phase too. I mean, all the washing machines and dryers and dishwashers we got, they run because of him, you say. And he was that crazy guy that sat with all the sparks coming out of him. So I grew up with this place, but I felt I was a part of it. And I spent many, many hours devoting myself to teaching that first course and making it meaningful. And that's something they would remember, and not just answer I didn't believe in optional questions like I made them essay questions, because I have a theory: if you've got true or false and 4 chances, the logic of math is that you put them anywhere, you're going to get some good marks in it. It's like a slot machine. So I try to make the questions constructive and meaningful, and that was my principle. I like mathematics. I often used to say to the students, you guys have trouble with your calculators. The Greeks did this with a tray of sand and a stick, 5,000 years ago, and you're having trouble now. And this was I'd make things memorable by humorous references, you say. The learning, I think, has changed in that they like to look it up on, Google things, That's not learning to me. And I always tell them, you go into a factory to do a service job, the owner doesn't want to see you looking at a calculator to say why his punch press isn't punching. He wants you to know it may, I teach them, I used to tell them, if you go into a factory and they say the punch press doesn't work, what do? And you get permission to go and talk to the operator and ask him, and he'll tell you, well, it made a funny noise when it started, and it never did that before. So, detective, Sherlock Holmes. So I'm teaching them to identify what the fault is, make sure they get the right components, go to the manufacturer first, get it from him. Because a lot of times these are specialty things. They're made, original equipment manufacturers make stuff, to do a certain job. So that's been a principle. The staff are all journeymen from industry here. They've worked in the job. It's very rare you see a greenhorn teacher, you don't see them. But it's not changed so much from day one, but it's got broader, I'm a big believer in handouts. They used to call me Handout City, If I'm teaching, I hand out that lesson on sheets with examples, worked examples. I mean, it takes a lot of time, but I do it so that they can see the actual thing working out, and or take some timing devices. When you push a button, 10 seconds later, a light goes on or whatever. I explain that whole circuit, how it works, what's its purpose, and then, of course, it becomes a lab work. It becomes a laboratory. So they can see the lecturer. I wasn't telling them any lies because they actually built it and it worked the way I said, Ta-da! So I like photography. I've got the old wet photography. I've got a dark room because it's out of touch now, but I like photography. I go to the senior center on McEwen and participate with them, chase all the girls. I play mahjong, and I'm not doing too bad. I'm playing against some of these 30-year veterans, I've been playing a lot. But I like being with people. As I say, my hobby is photography. I like the art processes, and I like creative arts, things like that. I read my horoscope and I believe it was right, and I twist it round to make it right. Actually, that's another hobby. I like to solve some problems. I'll read the questions at the end of the book and try and do them, and I find that interesting. We have discussion groups, and that's nice. I like to do that. We do exercises. We do physical exercises till I hurt my knee, and when that's better, I'll be okay. But the art world has always interested me a great deal. Places I like to go, I like Ireland, Southern Ireland, I like it. That's where my wife came from. I love the country. I enjoy life.